What's up, everybody?
What's happening, boys?
Looks like we're live. Let us know if we're not. We are doing restream today. It is a happy day. We're good to see you, Primeval, and Grognard's here as well. I think Patty's in here. Good to see everybody.
Yep.
This is an unfortunate day. David Lynch did pass away from being too awesome and smoking too many cigarettes.
Yeah.
So
Devastating loss.
yeah, it is a...
I will never creatively recover from this.
Right. But that got us thinking a lot about David Lynch, basically. And we're working on a video, not a tribute or anything necessarily, but how it relates to role-playing games, and that'll come up pretty soon. But tonight we got DM Blackwall here, and we've had him on before. I know a bunch of you in the chat probably have gamed with him before, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I have had the privilege to game with, I want to say something like, well over 1,000 people in my life, and probably over 500 in the last 12 to 16 months.
Yeah, and this is one of the great things about the game we're going to be talking about today is a lot of products out there get thrown out onto the market with zero playtesting whatsoever. This game is rock solid, heavily playtested.
Greetings, boys. RP David Lynch.
Seriously,
Yeah,
man.
seriously. And thank you for the super chat.
Thank you.
My ear trumpet has been struck by lightning. But yeah, this Horde Wars is a really fun game, and it's got a super rock solid set of rules. They're very simple to learn. And one of the things that I really appreciate about the rules here is that they're so clearly written. There's not really any ambiguity anywhere. I haven't found anything, even when we played, where I was like, oh, that didn't make sense, or this needed clarification. It
would be funny if you guys just talked the whole time with DM Blackwall nodding silently.
Thank you for the super chat, Buckquack. And I'm glad to see that President Biden woke up.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a great game. And
getting greater now that Horde Wars Advanced is coming out, which is taking you from level 3 or 4,
4, I believe,
all the way to the top.
Yeah, all the way to the top.
Tier 3.
Yeah, and so this is, and one more thing before we turn this over to Blackwall, you can still get Horde Wars Basic. It's $5 for the PDF. It is literally the highest value RPG product out there.
$7 now, but yes. And that's
okay.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, still an amazing deal.
Still an incredible deal, because this is not a starter set. It is a full game in its own right. Takes you up to, I believe, level 4, and you can play many sessions with that content, and it's really fun. But with that, I'll shut my mouth. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here. And yeah, you guys happened to reach out like the week I was working on trying to get this product out. So yeah, that worked well. We actually have pre-orders up. Like I did that today for the soft cover. So if anyone wants a soft cover, you can go to our website and pre-order it now. They ship out in the US in May. Yeah.
And
excellent.
The cover art on both Basic and Advanced are done by Basic Expert, and they're really cool.
Yeah.
I think he did a great job.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's knights killing all sorts of monsters. And
you want to show them that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull that up here.
So I can scroll around a bit. I don't know if I can.
Let me see if I can.
But just to let you.
Yeah. So this is knights and plate mail smashing things, and this is one of the things as well. We got to game in Horde Wars Basic. We may have been actually using some of the advanced content. I'm not sure. I'll let you speak to that. But Todd was an excellent GM, and it was insanely fun. I think we played for like 2.5 hours and killed something like 50 goblins
and we lived.
Some other monsters as well. Yeah, and we lived. Spencer almost died. But it's just a super fast game, and your characters, you can die like for sure, but you're super badass. Even at level 1, you're really potent.
I got a question in chat, it looks like, from Cal. Cal, I have no idea why the site would have a problem with your card, but it is a Squarespace site. So any cards that are normally accepted on Squarespace should
Interesting.
work.
Yeah.
And if not, you should check with your card provider.
Right.
I do know there are a couple things they don't accept. Trying to remember. I don't think they take Apple Pay and a couple of other things like that. So, and on a separate note, I also work at a nonprofit, and the American Express network has been creating a lot of problems because they're basically charging more money for everything they do.
Oh, Amex is terrible.
Yeah.
Remember,
so if it's that,
like
that could be that too.
YouTube algorithm. Don't let this channel die.
Remember, chat, hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm.
Damn
Don't
right.
let this channel die.
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't want to experience terminal channel death. Just a comment on our... Oh, go ahead.
Well, hopefully that helped address Cal's question, because I can tell you purchases are coming in. We have hit, I think, quick do some math, 1/12th, I think. No, 1/24th of our current sales goal in the first day.
Nice.
Excellent.
Very cool. and also for those of you out there, the link should be in the description of the video to go and check out Horde Wars Advanced, which is $15 right now, and I believe it's going up to $20 a little bit later.
So right now, $15 until mid-February. February 15th, it'll flip over to 20. And that's because we plan to also list it on Drive-Thru-RPG at that point. And frankly, they take a large enough cut. We have to mark it up that much.
It sucks. They do take a big cut. Let's see. We got here someone. Oh, I thought they were talking to Blackwall. Hail all. I'm seeing this system, and I only have one question. Will this system allow me to properly recreate the Battle of Helm's Deep or Minas Tirith in my own campaigns?
It will.
Yes.
And certainly with Horde Wars Advanced, which has rules for mass combat in it. As well as sieges. So
why don't you guys tell me, you looked through it a little bit. I sent you a copy to look through yesterday. What things have you seen that you are interested in and want to ask about before I give any kinds of sales pitch? Obviously, the people watching this generally are going to be interested in what you have to say.
Right. So one of the things we were wondering about was, so there are, like we said, there's rules for all sorts of buildings, strongholds, specialized buildings that give you different abilities and things like that. There's construction costs and times. This is all very, very simple, though. It's only across a couple of different pages. Let me see if I can customize how this looks, because this is a little wide.
I'm not sure if I can do much to mess with that.
There we go. We can make it a little bit bigger.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we'll be off screen for a moment. But so you've got essentially you've got domain rules in here, and the domain records are very small. Everything is very clean and easy.
It's very clean. It's very simple.
Yeah.
And resolving mass battles is very easy. Essentially boiling down to one D12 roll, which is nice. I like that. At the end of it, yes, for the ultimate determination.
1 to 4 combat encounters.
Correct. Yeah. So there's one.
Yes.
So essentially, and this is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have a mass battle come up, you roll 1d4 to see how many encounters that the PCs are going to be involved in. You then play out those encounters at the scale of the player characters, and depending on how they do in those encounters, that adds a bonus to this kind of final mass battle resolution rule.
Yes.
And this it's a D12 roll, like Nick said, and basically you have these different categories: 1, 2 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 11, and 12 plus, and those are going to be determined by the GM, kind of what would be the outcome. So this is not simply a static thing. Like, you don't look at that exact chart and then it's fine. It's depending on the circumstances of the battle. It could be significantly easier to win or significantly harder to win.
Right.
And then you play out these encounters.
Yeah.
If you lose, you get a negative on that D12 roll. If you win, you get positives. And so then you resolve that, and then the GM basically narrates how the rest of the battle goes.
Yeah, pretty much. And you begin, of course, determining which side had the advantage at the outset of the battle. There's also a modifier for that.
Yes, if anybody has an advantage, they get a +2 on their side.
Right. Yeah. And so the question we had, though, is with regards to sieges, so you have rules for basically, and I'm forgetting the term here, but basically when people would tunnel under, sappers, when you would tunnel under a castle to basically try and collapse its foundation from beneath. This is a real siege tactic. This is also something that is an axe. It says basically when a quarter of the structural supports, I think, are gone, it begins to collapse. So is this assuming basically that you have like mapped the castle and or the whatever building it is you're laying siege to, and you're kind of going on how many supports you've basically put in place?
Well, yeah. So basically, when I wrote this rule, I spent some time listening to and reading about actual sieges. And so when people it was not entirely predictable on the attacker's end when a collapse would happen, if at all. But generally speaking, once you have something a quarter or more undermined, there's a significant risk of collapse. And so if you were, say, undermining a tower at the corner of a castle, you would be digging and trying to basically get at least that amount dug out. And so from the game all the game master has to know is how large is this tower, because the game already defines how big a section is. Okay, so if you have
that's the part that we missed.
You already know.
Yeah, that's the section we missed, because we were like, how many sections? How do we know this?
Yeah, that's chapter 1, last page.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because we skipped through that because we were like a lot of the stuff was a little bit familiar from basic. But on the topic of, can you do like the Minas Tirith in battles, like those kind of large scale battles? Something to remember with Horde Wars is that encounters that you have are going to be with significantly more enemies usually than you're used to in a role playing game. Because again, it's called Horde Wars. Like you're smashing through crowds. So these are not just, it's the party has 5 people and they're fighting 7 goblins or something like that. It's going to be significantly more per encounter.
Yeah. And our very first playtest, I think we had the party fight a mob of like 30 or 40 goblins. And they lived barely, with effective teamwork, and that was a good sign that we were on the right track.
Yeah.
And obviously, we got the battle done promptly. It didn't take 4 hours, or something ridiculous.
And so there's also, I think, a lot more monsters in the monster section. Is that correct?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. You've got 60 pages in the monster chapter alone, plus beasts. And bear in mind, in our game, beasts include, how did one of our customers phrase it? God's creatures is how he said it. Yeah. Beasts include things that are animals, or if they were real, would be animals. Things like wyverns or unicorns.
Right.
And whereas monsters tend to be wonderful, Cal. Whereas monsters tend to be unnatural in some way.
Magic and evil. Oh man, this was so great. The when we were I believe it's in the GM section, and this is in basic as well, but there's a section basically on the topic of fighting evil. And it's like evil in this game, it's very obvious. It's like cannibalism and these really horrible things. Yeah, the moral imperative.
Yeah.
And at the end, your players will feel good about defeating and destroying evil foes, which is awesome. And the fact that they are clearly evil, and probably, and I'm assuming, and because I do want to ask you about, let you talk about the setting of the game as well.
Got a whole chapter on that, including 24 adventures.
And there's also a beautiful map done by Patty's Parlor.
That's true.
Of not Europe, which is great, which is the best setting.
Definitely not Europe for legal reasons.
Yeah. This would be sued by the UN, European Union. But there's a lot to like about this game. Like the mechanics are awesome. Like this is one of the few games that it's like, if you're tired of D&D and you're kind of tired of just standard OSR, this game is awesome. The system of like building your character, is super simple. So it's still it's a little bit reminiscent of OSR games in that sense. But you get a lot of customization with it because you get to choose multiple
perks and
professions.
features and and professions, classes, basically.
Like when I played a Blade Master Knight, which are two separate professions, and they give you so you get to mix and match kind of the abilities that you get between them, and so you could play like a Knight Wizard,
right? Well,
or a wizard
and
a different type of wizard,
or a blue or a gray wizard, it's very
and
cool.
One of the cool things, I don't know if you guys caught this yet, in Advanced is we include capstones.
Yes.
So each career has 2, I think one might have 3, but each career has at least 2 capstones, which emphasize one of its focuses. So, for example, the ability to block attacks, or the ability to make extra hard attacks, or take extra actions, or blast people with fire, or whatever it might be. And so when your character advances, when you get a new tier of play, which is after 4 levels of advancement, so when you go from 1 to 5 or from 5 to 9, you get to pick one of the capstones your careers gave you access to. So you have at least 4 different advancement paths, plus your species gives you an additional advancement path through its capstone.
Yeah. And
so you can really customize or focus your character in a particular way.
Yeah.
Right. And go ahead.
I was going to say, each profession is going to give you access to different maneuvers that can be used in combat.
Maneuvers or actions.
And different features as well.
Sure.
So
do you guys want to look at one a sec?
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right. Which one do you want to look at?
Let's take a look at the Knight, because the Knight is on the cover. Yeah.
Let me just scroll around. They are alphabetical, which is nice.
Yes.
So here's the basic stuff for a Knight. And a few of these, now let's see, is that displaying clearly for you guys?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the core of the Knight is riding, attacking hard, and blocking incoming attacks. That's the stuff he's good at.
Yeah.
And so we've got an explanation of what is a Knight in the world, your basic starting skills, and your starting abilities, including the heavy armor proficiency. But then for advancement, there are these 2 knightly orders your character can become a part of. Yeah, it's been great playing with you, Grognard.
Yeah. And Grognard is an excellent player as well.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. I know you guys have played with him in person.
Oh, yes.
We're playing with him in person on Saturday.
Indeed.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
So look at these 2 capstones and let me know what you think.
Yeah, double your riding skill on skill checks made to remain mounted on your steed.
Yep. You're hard to unhorse.
Right, and your defending weapons grant you a +2 shield bonus instead of the normal +1.
Right, so you're even better at avoiding damage, more encouraged to wade into the fray.
Yeah.
Which is good and very iconic for the Knight.
Right.
But then look at the other parts of each of those.
Mounted warrior. When you take the attack action while mounted, your steed may also make a single natural weapon attack, so a bite or a hoof.
Yep.
Nice.
And this is for those of you out there who may not have seen Horde Wars before or missed our previous stream on this. This works on a D12 roll high system, and you always crit on a natural 12.
Yes.
And so you crit a lot more often than you do in D&D, and you double the rolled. I think you double the rolled damage. So
you double the total damage. Yes.
You roll. Yeah, exactly. You double the total damage after everything. So criticals are absolutely devastating in this game.
For good and for ill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can usually make more than 1 attack per round, correct?
Yes. So anyone who has the right fighting style can make at least 2 attacks per round with that weapon. You have a limited number of fighting styles your character would know. It's based on your combat skill. You have a minimum of 2, though, even if you have no combat skill. And your species generally determines 1 of your starting fighting styles.
Okay.
And so this lets us do a little bit with like racial weapons and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then beyond that are wizards and other casters who get cantrips. The cantrips generate 2 attacks also.
Right. I think there's maybe all the wizards. From what I remember, there was like a spell I could do multiple times, like a cantrip we might recognize from D&D, and at least starting level. Because when we played, we were level 1 characters, and then another I could use either once per encounter or once per. I think it was like once per encounter.
It was once a day a tier, so it would naturally increase in use over time as you got more powerful.
Yeah,
and then you could choose every even level to pick up a perk. One of the options is to increase uses of a limited use ability.
Yeah, and this is how the capstones work as well. They're like once per day per tier, if I recall.
In some cases.
In
so,
some
for
cases.
example, what we're looking at here, mounted warriors just true all the time, whereas shielding stance is a limited use ability that baseline can only be used once a day. But that's because it's really busted. Have a read.
Until the end of your next turn, whenever you or an adjacent ally would be hit by an attack, instead you block it with your shield, causing the attack to miss.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
You and all of the friends next to you, you were just auto blocking for 5 seconds.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. Well, again, this is, and I said this before when we first looked at Horde Wars Basic, this to me, and this is a good thing, it feels this is more Diablo than Conan or Lord of the Rings. Not that those thematic elements and those aesthetic elements, it's not that they're not there, but you're supposed to get into a room, a dungeon with a shit ton of enemies and just start swinging, hurling spells. This is Diablo, or I've been playing Pillars of Eternity too. Same thing.
Path of
and
Exile
I love that.
too.
Oh yeah. I have played Pillars of Eternity too, but not recently. Path of Exile too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Those games are fun as hell. The world is fun as hell as well.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I really would love to do something in that world of Sanctuary at some point. It fits so perfectly.
And one of the great things about the magic users in this game is that you're not picking from some enormous list of spells. Like, you have a couple of spells that come with your class. And
so here's an example on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is like Fireball, once a day per tier. So by the time that you're 9th level, you're going to be able to cast 3 fireballs a day.
At a minimum, if you don't choose to increase that at your even levels.
And your damage is also going to be the number of dice that you're rolling is also going to be increasing as you level as well.
Yes, when you hit tier 2, you do an extra die of damage on all attacks, all damage sources. So melee weapons, spells, anything you're doing that causes the enemy damage, do an extra die when you hit tier 2.
Yeah, and this is another thing which is really great about the game is it's very simple without being simplistic. There's a lot of customization without it being burdensome. The advancement,
and without it being like the same thing, without it being burdensome, without it being complicated.
Right, you're always getting something of like notable value every level increase, and certainly every tier increase. Yeah, but it's exactly the same. You know, from tier to tier to tier, it's very easy to take a one quick glance. You know exactly what's going to happen from first level to max level. You're not choosing 9,000 different feats that are subdivided into 9 different subcategories of different types of powers. You have the spell-like ability section and the supernatural ability. So it's, so the options are, there's a small number of categories that you need to be aware of, but you get something that is meaningful, regardless of what profession selection, race selection, or combination, I should say, that you're choosing. So you can really have a full grasp of what the landscape of advancement or customization is without sacrificing, without having to be worried about reading an encyclopedia or getting something, choosing something that is not particularly helpful or not particularly effective. So,
and yet, even ignoring features, you have something like, do some math, 2,000 different starting character options. Doesn't feel like it. We got it in a short number of pages, but because you're combining a species and 2 careers.
Yeah,
and then you have a starting feature to further customize your character. And one of the things you can do with features, though, is you can gain additional spells. So if you want to play a hyper-focused caster, you could, for example, play a red wizard, combine it with a blue wizard, and then use your starting feature or features, if you happen to play a human, to get even more spells. I don't really recommend that, because whenever you run into something that is immune to magic, there's not much, but they do exist.
Right.
You will be useless.
Right.
I wouldn't hyper-focus quite that much.
Right. You don't want a full party of the same hyper-focused.
Doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
But you should have seen our players' faces. I had an online game with a party. I think half of them were Crusaders, and they ran into a dragon who was immune to solar damage.
Oh, man.
And they went, oh, crap.
And Todd will kill your character when he's
true.
GMing. He's the
as well he should.
As well he should, yeah.
Yes, there is video evidence of this on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but again, it's all very simple. Like which I very much appreciate, because this is one area where 5e character creation, people will say, is its own game, and to some people that is the game, and it takes forever.
Bad game.
And it's
a game I don't want to play.
Yeah, it's a game I don't want to play. But it's like you're not updating massive numbers of things on your sheet every time that you level up, because it's like leveling up is supposed to feel good.
Right.
Exactly.
And there are some games where it's just like, oh God, no, I leveled up.
Yeah.
Now I have to do like 8 million different things in accounting. And you don't have to do that here. This is actually something we did need to ask about, because we couldn't remember. We were looking at some of the monster abilities are pretty wicked. It's things like, like getting turned to stone. But we couldn't remember, like, does this game actually have saving throws? Can you defend against getting petrified if you get hit with like the petrification
or the basilisk? I think if it bites you or claws you.
It depends on the ability. So let's look at 2 examples. So our first example, the basilisk, like you mentioned. He has a turn to stone ability. There is no saving throw. The saving throw was your defense. Don't get damaged.
Don't get hit. Okay.
However, if we compare that to the Medusa, which will take a little scrolling because we have lots and lots of monsters.
There's a lot of monsters. There's a lot more art in Advanced as well.
Oh yeah, there's over 100 pieces of art.
Yeah.
We did what we could with the budget we had available. You guys have to bear in mind that when you are paying someone to do art, each of these pieces probably represents 6 times or more your purchase price.
Right. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's like that's something, and we actually haven't had anybody complain about the price of the oyster, but it is. It's like I was kind of anticipating it. It's like you have no idea how much money I put into that thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now look at that. Now compare the basilisk to this Medusa's gaze.
You're gonna have to read it. It's a little small for me looking ahead.
Oh sure. It says a creature of your choice within close range must succeed on a DC 10 fitness check, or he becomes petrified.
Got it.
Petrified creature's body turns to stone and his mind ceases functioning.
Hell yeah. Oof. Get fucked.
So if there is some sort of a save, it's going to be included in the monster, in the attack.
It'll be included in the ability, yes.
Right.
And all the saving throws are attribute based. So when you are picking your fitness, your willpower, your reflexes, your senses, you are choosing your saving throws.
Right. Crafty has an excellent question. Do you need Basic to use the advanced book?
You do not. Advanced is all inclusive. Basic was too, but only to 4th level.
Correct.
And we want to do that because, unlike certain companies, we would prefer not to farm you for money.
Yeah.
We want to provide you with a complete, ready-to-play product that you don't have to buy other stuff for.
Yeah.
And our long-term goal is, if you like our products, that you'll buy new products we put out,
right,
and not just little expansions that we charge sometimes more than the base price of the books for, which is the model of many large game companies. However, my business partner and I don't want to do that to you, and also we have much lower overhead as it's the two of us.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of the difference. Basic, like we said earlier, it's not a starter set. It is a game up until 4th level, and like we said, it's not
right.
The advancement is not going to. This is not 5e where you're advancing a level every session or every 2 sessions or something like that. It does take a little while, so you can get a lot of mileage out of Basic. But if you're just jumping in, I would recommend getting Advanced because
I would just get Advanced.
Yeah, it's a steal for the price still, but it's you get a lot more monsters. There's a lot more to the GMing section. It has the mass combat. It has full domain rules as well.
Yep.
I mean, the sample
expanded
adventure,
monsters and full mega dungeon creation.
Yes,
as well.
Yep.
Mega dungeon creation,
which is very
rules
cool.
For that. An example mega dungeon, and as well as the setting is included in this as well.
Yes.
And like we said, all the way up to, I believe, 10th level is the cap on this.
12th
level, excuse me.
We figured if we were going to play with the D12, we might as well.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've played D&D, the mechanics will be very, very easy to adapt to. This is not a huge departure. This is not like, there's a dice pool and then you got to do these other things. Or,
No.
It's a D12 roll high, just in the same way that D20 roll high.
Yep.
It's just, this is much cooler.
Yes.
I think maneuvers and how they work is like what they can do is probably the largest change you would see, as well as certain design change choices to enhance speed, including the ability to crit on a fireball.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And the initiative system is very simple as well. Yeah.
And also different. That's true.
Yeah. If you want to explain how the initiative system works.
Yeah, so basically, when combat begins, you all roll for initiative by rolling a d12, adding your reflexes bonus and any other bonuses you might have. It's possible to get magic items that might give you another bonus. And then you see who got the highest, whether it's the highest. And the game master, when he rolls, is rolling with the highest modifier among the monsters.
Makes sense.
And then you compare. You look around the table, who's got the highest, that person goes first, and turn order proceeds from them around the table, just like if you were playing a board game or a card game. And we found that this significantly saves time. When we played like D&D and that kind of stuff, there would be a good 5 minutes of sorting to get the turn order down.
Right.
This, you're about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And that really adds up when you have multiple combats.
Yeah. And when you're... Yeah, and like I said, and you're fighting lots and lots of enemies in these combats as well. So not having to have individual monster initiative is also really nice.
Yeah,
well, everything if you want that, bring a friend as the game master. Bring a friend, have him sit among the players, and have him roll for the batch of monsters you want him to control.
Oh yeah, you could do that.
I've done that, and when the players understood what was happening, they got up and switched seats.
Nice.
To stack the initiative system in their favor as much as they could.
Cellsox has a question. Yeah. So is this a combat-focused game?
Yes.
Typical gameplay like an action movie going from fight to fight? Is that how it differs from a typical D&D experience?
I mean, that's more of a game master choice. We've done like social. We've run in playtesting full like social interaction campaigns where the combat wasn't the main focus of those characters and what they were up to. But it is definitely combat focused in terms of the rule set.
Yeah.
Because that's generally what you need the most rules for, at least to resolve it fairly and effectively. And to have variety in combat.
And I would say it's also in the title, like the spirit of the game is
you're waiting in there, you're getting in the shit,
smashing monsters.
Yeah, we're going to clear Moria.
Yeah,
we're not going to be like those bitches.
Exactly.
Fellowship of the Ring.
Turn around and fight the enemy. Now that being said, though, to answer that guy's the other kind of half of his comment, like what makes it different from D&D, game speed at the table. When we run this at conventions, we actually have had D&D and Pathfinder players come over and watch and express their surprise at how quickly the turns are moving. The same is true for people who try it for the first time, who are used to other RPGs. Turn speed and round speed is substantially improved, in part because of how we design stuff. I mean, Nate is a math and physics professor. There is some crunch in there to make that happen. But also the initiative system, everyone knows whose turn is next. There aren't any questions.
Right.
And so that also helps with speed. And
even though you are taking two professions and you may have different abilities and maneuvers or combinations of spells and things like that, those you are also not faced with the infinite spell list that you have available in some games. Right. So you do not have like decision paralysis.
Yeah. And as far as that goes, that's actually the main reason in our playtesting and design that we moved Wizard away from being a single career or just like a couple, like a Wizard and like an Archmage or something. We designed and playtested those ideas. The problem is that we found that the Wizard player always slowed things down in character creation.
Oh, yeah.
When you had a spell list to pick from and took the time. So we just went, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah. But
I mean, it makes perfect sense also with regard to how characters are made. You're not playing a class. You're playing two classes and a race. Right. Yep. So breaking the Wizard archetype into different facets, it's in the spirit of what it is. Just like you're fighting more enemies. It's Horde Wars. There are more classes essentially, and you get to, in any one character, encapsulate two of them. Right. Which is very cool. And another thing that really, it does feel in character creation and it does feel in play notably different to D&D.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can be a knight and a red wizard. There's nothing stopping me from doing that. Or a priest and a blue wizard.
Right. So it avoids the trap of, like, a lot of games with classes. The classes, they're not simply niche protection. Some games go in that direction where it's literally just gamified, but it's not just niche protection. It's like the magic user is an archetype. The fighting man, the fighter is an archetype. And so you can mix and match these things. And so you don't have the problem where someone's trying to play the special snowflake, I'm playing against type.
Or someone's playing a wizard, I can't play a wizard too.
Right.
That we already have that,
Yeah. Exactly. You have to play a cleric because we don't have one.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work that way because people get to mix and match, and so it avoids the kind of special snowflake problem in a way that even skill-based games don't handle it differently than that.
Yes,
but it's very, very fast character creation. Someone again was asking about the mass combat rules. We did talk about that a little bit earlier, but it's played out as a series of PC scale encounters. With lots and lots and lots of combatants, and how you do in those encounters contributes to the overall result of the battle. There are mechanics for that.
Yep. And the largest like player character, like a small party versus monster fight I've done, I think was recently in a playtest in this system, and that was for another game using the same core mechanics that we're working on, hopefully to have out in November, which is I think working title is Dropship, and that is human soldiers being dropped off on alien worlds, slaughtering aliens.
Nice.
Killing
Good
bugs.
time.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, working on that, I think I ran 160 opponents against a party like in person.
Yeah.
I would hesitate to do that online. Online, I'd put the cap at about 60 or 70.
Yeah.
Just for tracking.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But that's the thing. Yeah, this game, it's in the title, Horde Wars. You get to wade through combat and kill lots and lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's built to do that, so you do it very quickly.
And I will say real quick before we go to the, I see there's another question. Something else that feels very different, and Spencer is completely right in how, because he had told us a lot about the sessions he was in before we got a chance to play, and he's 100% right in intuiting the intent of how treasure works. So you're going to be getting treasure. You're going to be getting magic items. These are not, sword +1. I have it forever until I upgrade it into something better. Maybe you will find a magic sword in Horde Wars, sure, but you're also going to be getting scrolls and potions and wands, and these are, I don't want to say easy come, easy go, but it's like you're going to be getting these, and you should be using them.
Oh yeah,
when the situation arises. You're supposed to use it in a similar, in a certain way to how ciphers work in Numenera, right? It's easy come, easy go. You find these, and when there is a lock for the key, you use it, and then you win, and then you find more better treasure, and you keep killing things.
I don't know if you guys noticed, we have about double the amount of treasure, specifically magic artifacts that you can find compared to basic. We also have about double the number of monsters and beasts. Now, the page count won't tell you that, and that's because we got a little better at layout, and so we were able to cram a few more stat blocks per page without really eating up space. But, like, for example, on a page where we maybe had 2 goblin stat blocks, we might have 3 now, and that kind of thing. And that adds up.
Let's see here. We got, does this game transition from adventures to small bands and then armies?
You're asking the axe question.
Yeah.
No, that is not inherent. You could, if you chose to play noble from the beginning and took the relevant feature and negotiated with your game master, or if your game master was like, hey guys, let's play where you're all a noble family trying to advance your house and their retainers. You could begin domain play from level 1 if you wanted to. And you also do not have to ever transition to it if you prefer to stick with jumping into dungeons and seeing what happens to you.
Right. Exactly. And that is also, I don't recommend in any game that people just jump into domain play unless you've gotten there through the journey before anyway. It's you can, but you're missing kind of the juice of what this game has to offer. And most adventuring games, even Adventurer Conquer King, it's not King, Conqueror, Adventurer. It's you start as Adventurer, you move to Conqueror, then you become King. And that path is there because that's how, 1, reality works.
Right.
And 2, it's just, it's a interesting and fun progression to do it that way.
Sure.
Yeah. And so our game allows you to go either way, though, because, for example, I've run successful campaigns where in older versions of D&D where the players did do what I described, started as a noble family and its retainers, and that was why they were an adventuring group. They were trying to push the power of their house.
Right. Yeah, you can do you can do anything. It's a role-playing game,
Yeah, of course.
Also, I don't think we mentioned yet, there's an entire chapter on nautical adventures.
That's true.
That is true.
That is not in basic.
No. So if you want to go sailing and die horribly, go out in the deep ocean.
If you want to re-enter the food chain.
Yeah.
Yes. Stay near shore if you know it's good for you.
Yeah. We got another question from Crafty. How well does this handle Troupe play?
I would have to ask what he means by Troupe play.
Troupe play being each player makes multiple characters, and you swap in between adventures and whatnot.
I would encourage that, actually. In part because this is a fairly lethal game, and some of the starting characters will die.
Yeah, and I will say, when we played, we had several other players who had played before. One of whom, Spencer, who had played a lot and was like, I think, level 3 at that point. And just swapped in like a club style sort of a thing. So it's very easy to do that, but
very easy.
There's no assumption like it's an Ars Magica thing where it's like you have to do this, or
it's
that's
not baked into the premise.
Yeah, it's not baked into the premise, but like you said, it's a fairly deadly game, so it's good to have other characters. And I believe if your character does die, you recommend basically like bring them in one level lower than the party minimum of level 1. And start going from there.
But even like an online play, I've had, because in person, generally people don't fall this far behind, but I've had someone come in with a level 1 character and adventure with level 7 characters. And it's been fine. The level 1 character could still contribute meaningfully to combat.
Yeah, you're still
They
competent.
weren't as good,
right?
But they were effective and able to be useful. And I don't know if you guys saw our alternate. Oh, we talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
But basically, you assign attributes, and you pick your species. You assign attributes. You pick your 2 starting careers. Write down those abilities, or copy and paste them onto your character sheet, and then you choose your starting equipment. You've got 2 lists, one from each of your careers. You pick one of them, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
You also have just enough starting money to get 1 decent item, or a few less consequential items.
Right. Yeah, it's the type of thing, I think, when it took us maybe when we didn't have any experience with it, Spencer guided us through. It took us like maybe 30 minutes the first time. It's something you can do in 10 minutes or less. Once you read the rules.
Very simple.
Spencer's saying don't hoard your resources. There's a lot of potential loot, but it's not Monty Hall-ish.
Yeah.
Yes, hoarding resources will result in defeat.
Yeah, will result in 0 resources.
We have another Horde Wars player here. Hold the line is a glorious treasure in the right circumstances. 15 zombies dispatched in 1 round while on the defensive, and only a 1/6 of the way through the horde makes for a grand spectacle.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times have we killed 16 enemies in 1 round?
Hold on. He did this in a session, I think, with Dundermoose there. I could be wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
We love
And in that session, his wife, actually, this guy's wife, actually, her character managed to hook a vampire and pull him out into the sunlight behind her horse and ride around with him until he died.
That's awesome.
Vampire Hector.
Yeah. This game is super for emergent play.
It is deliberate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we strongly recommend that. I don't know if you guys remember when we talked last time about that, and if you tried it in your home games, that D4 thing. Do you remember?
Yes, I remember what you're talking about. The rolling a D4 for the reason that something is happening, essentially advancing the.
Oh, yes. I remember this.
Yeah, if you want to explain this, because I'll butcher it if I attempt to reiterate it.
So the basic idea is this: it's fun for the game master to discover the story to some extent along with the players, and so we encourage that. That's why old D&D had tables for these kinds of things. We have tables for a lot of things too, but there are things that tables won't cover. And in that case, what we recommend, like for a plot line for a given NPC, what we recommend doing is whatever thing you think is most likely, weight that at 50% odds, and then pick 2 other options that are believable but less likely to be true. Roll, and then have the player announce the odds. So, for example, on a D4, on a 1 or a 2, The Baron is, well, actually, there's an example right here. On a 1 or a 2, the local lord is meeting his lover. On a 3, the local lord is part of a secret cult. And on a 4, the local lord is hiring an assassin. All of which are trying to explain why is the local lord sneaking off to the inn at night. And you roll and have the players roll. Tell them what the odds are, have them roll, and discover together which one is true. And you will find that you are, 1, more challenged as a game master. 2, players will sometimes interrupt you as you are giving these odds and suggest something that's even better. You can add it in. And it is exciting because the players know that you also do not know what is about to happen and that you really are discovering it together as a group.
Yeah.
And they usually have something they want to happen. Like they are gambling. They're like, I want this.
Yeah.
And it really grabs their attention. If you do this at the game table, and again, it's important you announce what it is and the odds ahead, and there only be 4 options. It has to do with the limits of human memory. Maybe 3 to 5 options, and a D4 is good for 3 or 4 options. But if you do that, you will see your players sitting up and paying more attention. Why? I don't know, but it is true.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe me, try it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool that there's information resources that are, like I said before, not burdensome. And this really should be how all games are designed and how they all play out, but it is certainly not the case. So the book, all the options that you're presented with are captivating immediately. It's very easy at a glance to sort of see all the different opportunities and possibilities that a character could have and the things that you can do. And that's very fun in reading the book. Cool. It is way more fun to play the game. This is a game because of its speed, because of how tight the rules are, that it leans into the action, that it leans into things happening all the time. There's advancement without it being absurd or ridiculous.
Yeah.
In play, it's really, really fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm hoping we get to play like we talked about sometime before I'm in Texas. So you'll have at least 2 games under your belt before then.
Hell yeah.
But I wanted to show you, we threw in a variant.
And you'll be, for the record,
for experience.
Before you go any farther, to clarify that for the audience, you're going to be at North Texas RPG Con this year.
Yes.
Running Horde Wars for people.
Correct.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So
we've got the table. We've bought the tickets. We just haven't submitted our events yet because Nate and I have to meet like next week and do that or so.
Yeah. We have also
done none of those things.
Done any of those things. We're probably going to have a booth there, but we will be there for pretty much the entirety of the con, I think. We're trying to convince a couple other people to come as well.
Yeah.
So if it's a really good con, it's a small con. The hygiene of people was good. So
yeah,
it's
there were people who were smoking out there.
Yeah, I mean,
it was good.
There was people like your friend John was there, who's a professional strongman. So there's really good physiognomy. It's a fun con, so everybody should go. And if you want to meet and play, not online but in person with the creator of the game, this is where you want to go. Is North Texas RPG Con? I believe this is June 4th through the 8th of this year.
Yep, that'll be our second convention of the year. We're also doing a private convention, which if you've been invited to, you know.
Yeah, nice.
And then we have a few in the fall that I think we'll be doing as well. And we got an invite for a con that we don't have. It doesn't have dates locked in yet. So I think there might be one out like Minnesota or Wisconsin or something that we need firm dates on before we can commit to, but we are interested in and probably going to do.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway,
so I apologize. Yeah, I interrupted.
Variant XP. You guys, I'm going to zoom in so you can actually see it, hopefully. There. You read that?
Yep. Using the chart above, when your characters reach higher levels of play, you gain hit points at each level.
No. That's character advancement. Read the variant.
Oh, the variant. Excuse me. Artifact experience. Instead of gaining experience points by completing adventures, the player characters gain 2 experience points for each artifact recovered from monsters. If the players choose to give the artifact to an NPC patron, they gain 4 experience points instead.
Interesting.
So if you if you recover an artifact and then you sacrifice it so you cannot use it yourself, but you give it to a patron above you, you get more experience.
Yes.
So you're balancing having awesome stuff versus getting more abilities.
More powerful
Yes.
innately.
This is our version of gold is XP.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
pretty cool.
Interesting.
And magic items, for the most part, you're not going to find these from fighting just like the mob of goblins. You're going to have to defeat whoever their chieftain is. They come from the kind of boss monster characters, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And this is part and parcel of how mega dungeons work.
Yeah, the
Right.
mega dungeon thing is cool because it's like you divide the mega dungeon into different sectors and you have different encounter tables for them. You're responsible for mapping those locations yourself if you choose to do that. But then it's like you have like when moving from one sector to the other, you're always using like the encounter table that you're using from the one that you're leaving. It's very cool, and it's a good way to actually think about structuring that if you want to do a mega dungeon.
Well, and we're basically in 3 or 4 pages telling you how to do a thing that most companies will try to sell you a 30 to 90 page module as an example.
Right.
And I feel that our product is definitely worth it just to save you that money.
Yeah, it's really good. I always appreciate it when the game gives you the actual tools to do these things on your own. And this is a fairly complete game, from the perspective of like adventuring in a fantasy game, because you can do pretty much anything. You can do the political game. There is also, I think you should probably tell us about the domain rules as well, because those look fairly simple compared to my only reference point. The thing I've been running for the last year essentially has been Axe, which is not simple. The mechanics are simple. There's just lots and lots of them. So it's a far shorter page count than everything's shorter page count than Axe. But
well, just to clarify, this is a 300 page book.
No, it's a big book. It's a full complete game, and this is kind of where I was going with this. Is that I think Axe might be the only game that I think at this point merits having 3 books, like the Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, and DMG. And that's sort of who was saying this earlier. Someone said that it's on Twitter the other day, and they're 100% right. That this kind of 3-book approach is just this artifact of like Gygax having to write this stuff.
Of course.
And releasing it piecemeal, so that the company could continue to exist. And you don't need to do it that way. You can just have 1 book.
You definitely can just have 1 book, but I don't think it's an artifact from Gygax, because actually TSR did release a single complete book like the Rules Cyclopedia.
That's true.
They tried that. I think it's actually an attempt to just get more money from your audience, from your customers.
There is
to play this, you really need to buy all of these products, and if you buy one, hopefully it'll lure you into buying the others. It's not. I don't think that is good for the customer. I'm sure it's
definitely not
for the seller, but and so we are selling you a book that is equal to or less than something by like Paizo or Wizards of the Coast for price. It is equivalent in length to any of their core books.
Yeah.
And we are in real measurable ways giving you more content. We are equaling or exceeding their number of monster and beast stat blocks for you to fight in our book.
But
we are equaling or exceeding the number of artifacts they offer in their DM's guide.
But
we are equaling or exceeding the number of classes or careers you can play.
The biggest difference
in their core books.
The biggest difference though is that this is a good game.
Right.
That too.
I'm not just being glib. Like I haven't read Pathfinder 2. I'm sure I'll hate it, but
There's no need to.
But I've been reading the DMG for the 2024 D&D, and it's very bad.
Yeah.
And it's like almost shockingly bad. It's all the bad YouTube advice that's been put together. There's actually the amount of actual rules and procedures in it is fairly light considering the page count in that book and what they advise. Whereas this game actually, like I said at the very beginning, this is one of the things I love about Horde Wars is the clarity in the rules. It is so easy to understand. It's so well written that you're not going to be sitting there arguing over some crazy interpretation of what something means. And they give you are getting rules for everything. You're getting lots of tables for generating things, NPCs, domains, lots of different random encounter tables for different regions. You've got all the encounter tables for if you're doing the sea voyages.
Yep.
You've got rules for mass combat if you want it. You have meaningful customization in your character without it being complex or burdensome. And the game plays really, really well. Like this is lots and lots of people release games, but very few people make good games.
That is true.
And this is an excellent game. So the thing is, it's not just like, here's the page count, here's the number of monsters. It's even with all of that being at parity, the quality of everything in this game is so much higher than what you're going to get out of those companies.
And
it helps, if I may, it helps that we had over 100 playtesters over the course of several years help us develop this.
Right.
That
this
Nate
is not
and I chose
half-baked.
to invest time and effort in getting other people to run this game and try it and play it. And I had the advantage of a couple of decades of experience as a game master, and Nate too, where I've taught people how to game master, and I was able to reach out to some of them and go, hey, I need this play tested.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good game, and unlike many regurgitations, this is identifiably and intentionally, I would imagine, in the D&D lineage of games, but feels distinct from X edition of D&D because of that speed, the number of monsters you're expected and encouraged to face, the way you're doing multiple classes, you're not sticking to an archetype. It does actually feel different, even if you're rolling a D12 instead of a D20, but it's a roll high sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
But it does feel different.
Yeah.
Which is better than just having good rules.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good, but I'd like a core unique identity and vision as well. That's all the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'll find also the D12 really does matter compared to a D20, in part because it increases the odds of critical hits, with the maximum roll being a crit. That speeds up gameplay, obviously, and also makes combat a little more exciting.
Yeah.
But also it let us embed penalties by simply shrinking the die size you're rolling to perform actions with the affliction mechanic. So say you were exhausted, you might be rolling a D10 instead, in which case you can't crit.
Yeah.
You can still hit. But you are physically weaker and you feel it.
Right.
But there's no extra math. You don't have to like add or subtract extra things.
Yeah.
You're just rolling a different die shape.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's brilliant. It's really, really cool.
Thanks.
See
What
here.
we got here?
So this is a part of that setting map that Patty was working on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had 7 artists on this game. 2 of whom, one of whom is a couple of whom are personal friends, some are acquaintances. 3 of whom are professional RPG artists who have been in a number of different products. One of whom is a daughter of a friend who wanted to get her first stab at making artwork for games.
Nice.
And so you will see a variety of styles. One of whom is a person I taught how to game master, who is a professional tattoo artist who decided to do some of the work for our book. And so it's been really cool getting all different folks that we know to work on this.
D&D 5 rules are so scuffed that I'd be shocked the D&D lineage didn't have any improvement.
Thank you, Matthew
Got him.
Pickard. Got him, yeah.
Now, you'll notice a lot of the names we chose to use in our setting are references to or real historical names.
Yep.
And it's not because we mean this is that real historical place. Right. It's because we wanted to give you a sense of where we borrowed some of the components from for that society, or
appropriated culturally.
Because we found that a lot of fantasy books have words that are just very difficult to pronounce or entirely unpronounceable.
Yeah.
Sad but true.
And so using real names really helps fix that.
Yes. It's one of the things that I hate, but it's also like I'm getting filtered on Makwahitul.
Oh, yeah.
The names and everything, even with the pronunciation guide. It's like, this is such a good game, but I can't say any of this.
Yeah. I enjoyed looking at that while John was developing it. It's a pretty cool concept. And so Andalus, for example, down here, that is a real, it's part of a real name for a Muslim-dominated Spain. We do not mean that this is that place at all, but we do mean that there are some related analogs, in part because we have these are monsters, but they are donkey riding archers who use scimitars. There is a deliberate play off that history.
Yeah.
But they are not humans. They are not at all good. Unlike actual people, you should kill them. In part because they're into human sacrifice and they worship dragons. In part because they enslave whole races. They're terrible. Yeah. The Dracarans are not your friend. They are the only truly monstrous nation on the map. If you look,
you know
all
what
the
you
other
have to
ones
do.
are
You need to role play the Reconquista.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
I mean, in our game, you play Crusaders.
Yeah.
You don't play.
You can and you should.
Yeah. You don't play paladins or anything like that. We're a little more direct about that kind of thing.
Right.
And so there's another mechanic here, looking at this map, that I'm reminded of that is also separated from the kind of D&D lineage a bit, is that you'll notice there's not hexes here.
No.
On this map. And how is like travel and wilderness exploration handled, since you have this beautiful wilderness to go out and adventure in?
Well, to answer your question, it is mile based, but we didn't want to, how to phrase this. We have given you distances in the starting area for different things. So you can absolutely use that to get a scale for this map. It's not a problem. If you want to. Like you have a distance from top of Witchwood to the mountains. And so you can just that's written in there. So you can literally use that to make your scale if you want to do it.
Right.
We originally were going to have a scale bar on here and decided it didn't look the best. And we wanted to give the game master the freedom to interpret this map a little if they wanted to add a few hexes or squares.
Yeah.
But it is mile based. You're rolling based on days of travel, and how many miles you cover is based on the terrain and your abilities.
And you're not. So how are you determining encounter frequency then? Because it did seem a little different.
That's covered in the Game Master chapter. So if we pop over there and we go to the overland travel encounters, there's slightly different rules for sea-based travel encounters, in part because you can have greater starting distances at sea.
Right.
Yeah. But shallow water yields different things than the deep ocean.
Right.
But essentially, what is happening for each day of travel is the players are rolling to avoid encounters as a group check. Majority succeed, majority fail. If the majority succeed, no travel encounters, they've successfully avoided them. If the majority do not succeed, then they have a D4 travel encounters. And you use a D20 to determine how many hours after they set out for the day that the encounter occurs. You can have multiple encounters occur at once, in which case they start just moments apart.
Yeah.
Which does happen once in a while.
Yeah.
But more often, you'll have some happen during the day, some at night, and that gets a good variety. Also, you never know when you're rolling how high the stakes are until you've failed.
Yeah.
You know that there's a risk of one or more encounters, but then if you fail and then you roll 4, you'll hear the groans. The players will be like, "Oh crap, we're gonna die."
Yeah. And also on the encounter tables, if you roll a nat 20, you then roll a d6 on a separate encounter table with what I'm assuming are much worse things. Much worse things. You won't be able
to read it, but just to give you a sense, a bit. So up here, you're rolling in columns.
And the columns are different terrain types that you're going to be traveling through.
Yep. And you're rolling a d20 for what did we encounter?
Right.
And then if you roll a 20, you go below in kind of an exploding dice situation. So if I zoom in a little now, down here, you'll see some of the examples of what happens if you roll a 20.
Yeah, you can run into dragons and stegosauruses.
Yep.
All sorts of very, very bad news for your characters.
Especially bad to find stegosauruses in France.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the Franconian area and the Eastern area does have a fair amount of dinosaurs. And the reason that happened, like in terms of design, is because we were using a single random table. And when our players went and explored that area, they kept rolling dinosaurs.
Yeah.
In playtesting. And we were like, all right, fine. That area has dinosaurs.
Yeah, that's
that's where it is. Nice.
That makes sense.
And then you'll see, so for mountain, swamps, and underground, same sort of thing. But again, all different monsters. Dragons are in most terrain types, but you will not typically accidentally encounter them underground. There may be one in a dungeon or something, but not in just a random cave.
So the setting, it is, as we've seen, vaguely Europe, vaguely historical. We're using familiar elements of it. We have evil people riding donkeys, wielding scimitars, and enslaving fantasy Spain.
Well, not just that. Like the orcs, who are playables, they aren't monsters in our game, are not nice. They're sailing up and down the coast like a bunch of Vikings, raiding for silver and slaves.
Yeah, nice.
But you can at least make a treaty with them, and they might actually honor it.
Right. But you have, I think you mentioned this. This is a monotheistic world, right? Or at least the dominant religion is a monotheistic.
The dominant religion is monotheist, yes. So if we pop over there to the faith skill, this is a list of the major religions in the world.
Right.
So the Church of the Creator is the biggest one, but there's also different cults. The Dracarans have their own religion. The Easterns have their own. So the Dracarans are polytheistic and worship dragons. The Easterns are polytheistic and worship like a particular group of gods, which we've listed some of.
Okay.
The fire cult is a pretty direct rip of an ancient Persian religion. And the which I think is just really cool. And the orcs are also polytheists.
Got it.
So you do get a variety of options.
Okay. And
but the majority in the human countries and halfling countries are monotheists. Yeah.
Got it.
And is this in terms of the kind of flavoring, is this sort of like a Catholic Church style thing? Like European? Okay.
If you're going to play in the Middle Ages, you might as well actually play in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
Of course. Agreed.
Now, there is a little bit of fantasy flavor in that we allow potatoes.
Yeah. The Irish?
Yeah.
those weren't a thing in Europe in the Middle Ages. They did not.
They were found. Yeah.
In our world, they've always been there. What do you mean there are no potatoes? But that's a fairly minor anachronism. As much as we can, we want it to feel like fantasy medieval Europe. So some of the threats are turned into monsters
Right.
that weren't really monsters.
Yeah.
Or I'll give you another example. Dragons, the
Or
Western
probably
dragon, is a fantastical creature. It probably wasn't real. However, dinosaurs appear to have been quite real. And if Europeans really were fighting what they said were dragons, in particular in the Roman era, in which there's a single encounter with 4 different eyewitness accounts that we have in 3 different sources, so they probably really were doing it, then they were probably fighting dragons. Or not dragons, dinosaurs. Because those are real. There's evidence for that. In fact, the specific dinosaur they described matches a description of a Chinese one, as if they're describing the same creature.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so that's a fun rabbit hole to go down if you're ever really bored.
Now,
but
we did see on Twitter the other day someone did an AI reconstruction of what of like dinosaurs with feathers. Now, in this game, do dinosaurs have feathers, or do they look like dinosaurs actually looked like?
No, dinosaurs having feathers is stupid.
Yes,
okay,
it is. Yes.
And is based on
Correct
essentially zero
Thank
evidence. And if anyone is ever bored, I did do a podcast a while ago with Greyhorn Pagans talking about historical dragons and giving some firsthand some direct accounts of what people wrote during the period about that, as well as showing some examples of art from the past depicting what looks suspiciously like specific dinosaurs.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Where is this? Because I want to watch that.
Yeah, what podcast is this?
Greyhorn Pagans podcast. Obviously, I'm not a pagan.
Pagan.
I'm a Christian. I have various. I've served as a deacon in my local church. However, they wanted to talk about history, and I enjoy history. So I've been on their podcast 2 or 3 times.
So I beat them at their game by talking about dragons.
Yeah.
Which I unironically believe in.
We've talked about specific historical things. I did the same thing with Raven Wolfgar talking about the Black Death, because I had read a firsthand account of a government official in Constantinople when the Justinian plague hit, and it was brutal. It killed.
Yes, it was.
It killed more than 90% of the total population of the cities that it hit.
Yeah.
And it did so rapidly that they couldn't bury or burn the bodies fast enough, and they wound up filling the guard towers like grain silos with human corpses.
Wow. Yeah, it was worse with regard to like intensity than the Black Death.
It was, and compared to the demonic, there were 3 waves of, broadly speaking, of how this thing spread, and this one had a unique property, which was when the people were about to die, they would suddenly get animated, mad with fever, and go running around.
Oh man!
Like through the streets and spreading the disease as they did it, which must have been terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the later outbreaks, you had one that was airborne. It was pretty obvious because it matched the travel speed of humans.
Yeah.
And if you didn't let foreigners into your city, you didn't get it. So it was a pretty obvious airborne human spread thing. And that one was also quite deadly, though not quite as bad. And then you had the later one, even at later ones after that, which were rat-borne, and you can tell because they match the breeding and seasonal patterns of rats for when the plague spread. Anyway, just that's a whole side note, but we do have something like that in here. We have the Grey Death, which is completely different in the sense that it is not a virus
disease of
or
nanites. I've played Deus Ex.
Yeah, it is not a virus. It is not a bacteria. It is a fungal infection.
Okay.
And when you expire from the Grey Death in our game, your body explodes, spreading the spores.
Nice.
That's awesome.
And so there are astronomical events, and there's a sidebar by our rats that explain how this disease works.
That is awesome.
Hell yeah.
So is there political turmoil and conflict? I'm sure Europe didn't.
Of course we have the Reconquista, we have the goat men or the donkey men.
The donkey riders.
The donkey riders. They are dragon men.
Oh, dragon men. It's even more twisted.
Yeah.
They're already animal people riding animals.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, it's necessary because you have to make your villains really villainous.
That's true.
Right.
You do.
It's not that there can't be gray villains. There can be, but that should be the exception, not the rule.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And here's an example of a small human country. And so you'll see that there's the heading with the name, a description of the country, and kind of how its politics work.
Mm-hmm.
All of the countries list this kind of information for you really briefly. Who's the ruler? How's it organized? Who are the major players in terms of house names? What do they export? What are their soldiers like? And what language do they speak? You'll also see that there is a piece of their main heraldry next to this description. So each country is like this. Below this, you'll find a note on their culture and 2 laws. One will relate to inheritance, and one will relate to something unique about their culture. In this case, a border tax, because these guys control mountain passes between 3 major countries. And so they can basically tax the trade on all of those countries. Other ones will have other things for their other law that is unique. But each country has its own unique law, and then each has its inheritance laws. And this matters because in real life, this was a major source of conflict. Male preference versus male only primogeniture meant the 100 Years' War between France and England.
Oh, yeah.
Because in France, only men could inherit no matter what. In England, women could inherit, but only if there were no relevant men to inherit.
Right.
And so that was the source of those wars, so of the English claims on the French throne. And so we wanted those seeds of long-term conflict.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And speaking of the kind of long-term conflict, the domain level play of this plays out over a kind of an accelerated time scale from what I could see, right? It's like each session, each time you're doing like a domain session is something like a month.
It's a month or a season, I think.
A month or a season should go by, yes.
Yeah.
And there are obvious reasons for this, again, if you like history. And that's because the build time of a cathedral or a castle is not short.
No.
I mean, things don't work like Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
No, they don't just pop up. And so if you're going to have anything like realistic build times, and ours are still truncated in the name of fun, but if you're going to have anything like realistic build times, like I had a player reach out to me today, having looked at Advanced and going, oh man, this building project I want to do is going to take 14 months. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty short, man.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the goal with that is to have some realism and then also have meaningful advancement. Like in real life, it often took an entire season to raise an army. You'll see examples of this, especially in the English Civil Wars, in the sense that they're well documented. You'll see examples all throughout history, but the English Civil War is well documented in English, as well as previous ones that you can actually read quite a lot about it as presumably also native English speakers. If you're bored, you can get translations of other nations' accounts of their horrible infighting and efforts to raise armies. But the short version, though, is it took months to raise an army in real life. And so it shouldn't take months of real life gameplay for you meeting with your group to finish raising your army. That's kind of boring.
Yeah.
It's much better for it to take 1 to 3 sessions.
Yes, exactly. So there is an aspect of time management. You do feel the passage of time that way, but you're not sitting there literally tied to months and months and months of delaying getting to having an army in a battle, running a battle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I know you've probably heard of one-to-one time.
Oh, we've used it, and we are no longer using it. Yeah.
This is much closer to a 4-to-1 or 12-to-1 time. And it is for gameplay purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that you're forced to be locked to that, but that's roughly what you're doing.
Right. And so that's actually kind of interesting. So are you doing, if you're running this as kind of the adventure game, because so how does this work on your Gilded? Because you have a large number of players, and you've alluded to the fact a couple of times previously that there is kind of an ongoing kind of domain game going on.
There is.
Yeah. And how is that working? Are you guys doing any sort of PvP? And
a bit.
And how is the calendar advancing? And how does
one of
what's the frequency of those
sessions? Last week, actually, in PvP.
And how here's the other thing. How do you integrate? Are the adventures that you're running with, like when you brought us in to do a game, are those also integrated into this domain game as well? Like, is this a part of the same kind of campaign? Or
in general, yes, unless we specifically write one shot.
Got it.
Or unless someone else is game mastering, in which case it may or may not be, depending on if they've checked with us ahead.
Got it.
Interesting.
But if I'm running a game, or if someone's running it if they checked with me about what they're going to do, that's part of the domain play. Those events impact it, and in fact can drive the plot, or the reverse. The domain play can cause adventures to spawn, which is really fun. And you'll get players who are eager to sign up for these adventures because some of them were in the domain play and know why it should happen, or know why they want it to happen.
They're more invested and interested.
Yeah. And so the domain play I usually run for about 3 hours, roughly, 2 or 3 hours. And the player count is anywhere from, in a given session, 3 or 4 to like 12. And it varies like week to week, it's not the same people.
And what does that look like in terms of the gameplay? Is it like, is there lots of kind of wheeling and dealing and role playing going on? Is it, or is this, basically I'm wondering is this just like a big accounting session where we're all taking care of our,
No, the last domain play, they spent half the session in a combat, because basically each player is allowed during domain play to bring up to 2 characters and advance those characters' interests. And in this case, we had every single one who was there had one character who wanted to be involved in a particular war.
Right.
And so we spent half the session, because it was half the characters, fighting in that war.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And so that can be quite a lot of fun. And this was actually the second or third session of that ongoing war, and they finally won. And they were really excited about it. Because they had a number of indecisive battles against the enemy where they got like a draw or a minor victory, and they weren't able to close it.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
And they finally got a major victory. And they're like, yes. So that's been really cool. And generally speaking, we're having a month go by in each domain session.
Okay.
Got it.
And again, I'm sorry, I may have missed this. How frequently are you running the domain sessions?
I had been doing them every week. I had to slow that down for game development time and such. Right. So, because we are working on another game, of course.
Yeah.
So now I'm doing that every other week.
Man, I wish I had that
schedule.
Yeah, I wish I had that kind of stamina. I can't. Because we ran some games on our locals for a little while, which was a lot of fun. We'd like to do it again.
Yes.
And we were doing it weekly for like 3 weeks, and then we were like, I can't
do
this every time. There's just
have you looked at our Gilded calendar, man? It's not once a week. It's more.
Oh no, I know. That's what I'm saying. This is impressive to me. Is that like, if we're like running the games while doing streaming and doing all the other stuff
streaming,
we're doing,
making videos,
making
writing
videos.
Books,
It was just kind of like there's not enough. If we do this, like other things fall apart, so it's very, very impressive that you're doing that. And I know there's a lot of people out there that game a lot more frequently than us. There are people who play like 3 or 4 times a week. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
now if I may, I just wanted to show you in general what you're getting in the setting chapter. So you're getting a map of the setting. You're getting an introductory page explaining general stuff about world history, or continent history, I should say, explaining how are we here? What happened that led to this?
Yeah.
But then for each of the major nations, of which there are 8, you're getting a 2-page spread, which includes the information I was showing here, this kind of stuff, for a half page, including those laws. And then you get a half-page location-based adventure with NPCs and a quest. And on the facing page, you get 2 more location-based adventures,
nice,
with NPCs and quests. And so, as an as an example, this adventure is just, there is a local lord named Dietrich Bauer, who basically has a domain that he theoretically rules that is overrun with bandits and ice spiders and all kinds of problems. He doesn't actually control anything. And he doesn't have money, he doesn't have manpower, and basically what he can offer you is a knighthood if you can clear out his land. That's
awesome.
Okay.
That's what he has available.
Yeah.
Nice.
He is a broke minor noble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and then he's got this tax collector guy, who is a nervous dude who collects border taxes and usually has some guards protecting him. And then there's this merchant woman who's also hanging out in this pass area often, going back and forth through it, who has her own goals, but she sells coffee, tea, sugar, and salt at a discount and treats halflings as though they're children. So these are the three kind of characters we're describing.
Very suspicious woman.
Yeah.
Yes. The adventure itself is dealing with the bandits, the ice trolls, and the ice spiders. And it's saying, where are these problems? How many of them are there?
Yeah.
But then there's this, in which you find out when you fight the bandits that either Axel is actually the bandit leader, Olga is the bandit leader, or
bitch.
the bandit leader is a dark crusader, in which case you got a very different and problematic stat block to fight. In that you're going to be dealing with a guy in plate armor with supernatural evil powers.
Yeah.
And that may not be what you signed up for.
That's what I signed up for.
That's what I signed up for, yeah.
The game master
I
and the
need to kill
players
him.
don't know until
Right,
that
right.
roll happens. This is using that game master advice as part of the adventure.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's the treasure notes on if you clear the area, you will get some random loot from these criminals and such that you've cleared out, the things they've stolen, which could include some actual treasure. And then one of you could also gain that knighthood.
Yeah,
you know what this reminds me of? Might and Magic 7. When you leave the first island, you win the competition, and you nominally win a deed to an abandoned, I think it's the estate of Harmondale, but it's what no one has told you is basically a dungeon at this point and has been laid fallow for forever. So you're getting a lemon of a domain.
Right. You're getting an adventure.
You're getting an adventure. This reminded me of that, which is a very cool idea for linking up political level intrigue with adventuring level rowdiness, which I feel like you could probably very easily do in this game.
Well, this is set up very much for that, and and so basically with this 2-page spread you're getting with each nation, you are getting not written out in detail for you like our introductory adventure, which is kind of step by step, but in general you are getting 3 location-based adventures for each nation, as about 9 or so unique NPCs who have their own goals and agendas they're pursuing for each of those nations.
Yeah, and you're on top of that, outside of the settings section, you're getting the entire first starting adventure.
And starting area. I think we've got up that to 19 different adventures in the starting area as well.
Yeah, which is significant. Like yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that you can get a game going very, very quickly.
Oh yeah, you should be able to have your group playing within the hour, even if you have, unless you are a very slow reader, granted, playing within the hour, even if you have never read our game before, if you've played some other role-playing game. If you've never played a role-playing game, it might take you a little longer, or you might want to watch a YouTube video of someone doing that, so you have some idea of what it is you're trying to accomplish. But yeah, No, you should be able to get there pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that is something I like the format of this, is that you have the game rules up first, in front and center before character creation, and it's like not that long. It's like maybe 15 pages of telling you the terms, how things work.
Yeah,
and like I said, this is probably like the clearest set of rules that I've read ever. It's like there's just there was never any ambiguity with anything. Everything makes sense. There's pretty much any time that I was kind of like, well, what if this happened? The next sentence was like, if this happens, blah blah blah. You know, like there's
Oh, thank God.
It's just a very very well written game. So it's something you can get going very quickly. And I noticed some people talking about the Gilded as well. Asking,
yes, so we do have a Gilded, and people who purchase through our website get an invite. If you choose to purchase through DriveThruRPG, we have Basic up on there, and we'll eventually have Advanced up in about a month on DriveThruRPG. You won't get an invite because they won't let us send you one.
Yeah.
And so you'll have to contact us directly with your order number in order to get that invite.
And if you so yes, there is that. I also had a question. This is right now it's a PDF, and you've got the pre-orders for the softcover. What's the format on this one? Because I know that previously you had Horde Wars in kind of a spiral bound or coil bound.
Oh yeah,
we did both. We did both. So Basic we sold as spiral bound and softcover. And so and we also did a few hardcovers as well. We did a total of 5 print runs of Basic.
Nice.
And so 2 spiral bound, 2 softcover, and 1 hardcover, I think, if I recall correctly. And so we still have some of those soft covers available, but the rest have sold out.
Now, in terms of the Advanced, what's the format going to be when that comes out?
So same style of soft cover, actually the same printer as our soft covers for Basic. We have exactly hit their maximum page count to bind.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Do you mind if I ask which printer it is? And if not,
no, no. Comics Wellspring. They're also based in
Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greg Lambert uses them as well. And so they do a good job for soft cover. And I talked with their employees recently. They told me their company was recently acquired by a bookbinding company, and that their binding quality has actually gone
Interesting.
up.
Interesting. That's good.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that. And then we also plan to offer a collector's edition hardcover a little later. It's going to take some time to work out the exact pricing with a different printer, basically.
Yeah.
But that's going to be expensive. It's going to be probably like $100. Exactly, we'll find out. But the short version is, depending on the quantity we order, it will cost us roughly quadruple what it costs us to buy a soft cover.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you consider kickstarting that
deluxe hardcover?
Deluxe hardcover, because I think you could probably get. This is one of the things that we found, is that the Kickstarter is one of the primary benefits of it is that it is just this massive poster, and the reach and discovery for it, even just organically, was much bigger than we anticipated, and so it's a way of generating more sales up front.
And also that campaign, you could also have late pledges on it for forever, but also you have a permanent billboard.
Yeah, that's just always there. So it's I would say something to consider, because you could potentially increase the number of sales considerably with that.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I may look at that. I know for some of our other projects we're working on, we would need to do a Kickstarter in a functional way. For this one, we don't need to. We can just do some pre-orders, but I think that's good advice as far as getting another kind of billboard out there. But for example, our superhero game, when we are close to releasing that, which that's like art alone is going to cost like $20,000 for that. So we're not close, and not because of game design stuff, just because of the extreme expense of artwork and printing. Also, to be fair, that will be about a 450 page book, and that's going to be like that's not going to be cheap for us.
Well, and that's it's not cheap for you, it's not cheap for the consumer, but that's also something to consider is that like people will pay for quality.
It's true.
And it's like I want to pay for a complete game. I want a good game, and I want the product to last for a long time.
Yeah.
And that is not. And since you do have in your stable of games already, you have a very affordable game on the low end with Horde Wars Basic. I think that people are going to be willing to look into the more expensive high end stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I certainly would, even if we had never spoken. If someone had recommended me or ran me through Horde Wars, I would have been thoroughly impressed, not knowing you, and would be willing to pay a premium price for a premium product.
That's great to hear, and so we're looking at that. We've had a few people mention to us, "Hey, do you think you could do this?" And we think we probably will, but the volume we're looking at, we'd probably have to do through something like Lulu. They do better quality than like drive-through and that kind of thing.
Sure.
Right. I would say the one thing about Lulu, and this is just something that I heard from some guy at the last convention we went to, but we were talking to different people who've worked with different printers, and he said that Lulu, they farm out their printing to all sorts of lots of smaller printers, and he said their black and white stuff is usually very good, like across the board, but it's been hit and miss with the color stuff because you never know who's actually printing it. Which is unfortunate, but
interesting. We've had.
I don't know if that's
them
true,
so
but that
far.
is some guy told me that. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cannot confirm, but
yeah, we've had good results with them so far for hardcovers. So we'll see. But the reason is essentially because unless we're talking large volume, like 1,000+ books in an order, you can't get cost-effective hardcovers.
No, you can't. I know. Color, and especially in the United States, it's almost impossible to do. That was I've spoken with McCrease a couple of times on this, and he's like, "Yeah, if you want to do color, you basically have to use an overseas printer."
Yeah, I found one in the U.S. that is decent, but it's actually owned by a foreign entity, physically in the U.S. But you can only get viable pricing, $17-20 somewhere in there a unit, and that's still high, but doable.
That's pretty high.
At 1,000,
right?
Minimum order. So $20,000.
Right. I will say, and I don't know if I don't have it right behind me, but our friend Kyle, who did, who's of Broken Blade, you may know him. His books that he had through Print Ninja, which is it is Chinese company, so you do have to get it shipped over and whatnot. The quality is excellent. They do sewn bindings. His books are color, and the unit price on those are fairly cheap. Okay. Don't know what the tariff situation is going to look like. If overseas printing is going to make sense.
That might spike a little.
Yeah, but the quality of those books, I have 2 of his books. They're very, very good.
That's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't have to continue talking about printers. We can talk about your game.
It's relevant to all 3 of us, and probably to some of the people watching.
Yeah.
If you want to get into this, realize that you're gonna probably not want to do hardcover for your first product.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna cost you a lot of money to make that at all cost effective in the long run.
Yeah, it's tough.
And you probably don't want to be out $20,000 and have 1 or 2 rooms in your home simply full of books.
Right. Yeah, that's why we're sticking to print on demand for a while.
Yeah.
Until we are sure that we have the volume that we can do it.
An offset
run.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I will say, soft cover wise, you probably could do it with the numbers I've seen from your Kickstarters. If you have a sufficient storage space of even like a pantry, you could probably get a print run.
Yeah, you're not dealing with pallets.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, Crafty. We'll
take it easy, man.
For dropping by.
Yep, good night. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. or if it was clear. So the soft cover is up for pre-order, also on our website. PDF, obviously, you'll get immediately. Soft cover, we're looking at shipping in May.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Hell
so
yeah.
Yeah, only a couple months from now.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
so
4.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you're working on something that you're looking to have come out in November. I don't know if you can or want to talk about that.
Just briefly, working title is Dropship, and it is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Dropship. Yeah, but
it is
just as a closer.
Basically, we have a larger sci-fi game that we've been working on for like half a decade. We've had multiple rounds of playtesting. We've got a pretty solid space combat rules system, and the thing we were really lacking in was really the character end. And so Horde Wars actually was written as a mind exercise originally for me trying to think about how to write character abilities in a different genre, to help think about them in a different way. And our playtesters for the sci-fi game liked it so much that we wound up producing that first.
Interesting.
But the sci-fi game has been on the back burner now for a little bit, and Dropship is a narrow slice of that game focused on basically human soldiers, human Marines being dropped off on alien worlds to fight aliens. Well, there's this existential threat of, I think it's 6 or 8 different alien, not species, there's more species than that, different alien factions, attempting to carve up human space like the Europeans carved up Africa.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not on my watch.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Not on your watch. Humans don't like this plan and are trying to resist.
We do have a question from Guy. I may have missed this, but does Horde Wars Advanced mix well with other OSR games like Shadow Dark?
Ooh, that's a good question. So it is a different rules system, but a lot of our setting information and tables could work well in that kind of thing. So if you want setting content, then yes, this is probably worth picking up the PDF for. If you are looking for rules that are one-to-one the same and won't require some effort on your part, no, different rule system.
Yeah. And then how would you say, if you wanted to if you had like a big pile of OSR modules or something like that, like dungeons, but you wanted to start playing Horde Wars, easy conversion to do those? Easy,
because as I mentioned, with the expanded and you guys mentioned, with the expanded bestiary, with the monsters and beast sections, we basically have an analog for everything.
Yeah.
Would you suggest in encounters increasing the number appearing though?
Of course.
In Horde Wars. Okay. Yeah.
Whatever number they told you, just double it.
Yeah.
Easy.
Other than if it's like a solo monster, like a dragon or something. Even
then,
then,
universal conversion guide. Double it.
And then we have a question.
Hell yeah.
Are there rules for fortifications being sieged by huge monsters like Kaiju and dragons?
Yes, but that isn't what would happen. So a siege tends to be a months or years long event. A dragon can fly over the wall.
Yeah, and just burn it. Barbecue everyone inside.
Yeah, and so a dragon would not besiege a castle. At least unless it was very well defended, and even then it would probably be a matter of days or a week or something, not months and years. And so supply isn't the main threat, nor is disease. It's really just the direct attack and indirect attacks of the dragon. For example, we have a dragon that can make the air in a certain radius unbreathable due to volcanic ash.
Nice.
That will quickly wreck that portion of a fortress as everyone either dies or has to leave that area.
Literal free real estate.
Yeah. I wonder, do the Knicks have sap instead of blood? My character wonders if it goes well on pancakes.
So he's asking about Dropship. We have a group of green-skinned humanoids that actually have photosynthesis going on.
I don't trust them.
That we put in there as a nod to classic sci-fi TV shows who are going for the cheap costumes of 20 ears and green skin, and that's it. And they're space pirates, basically. Their entire world is overrun with zombies, and they are in space stealing resources to survive.
Nice.
So dropship, is this another bug hunt? Which I believe is an aliens reference.
Yes, we've got some bugs for you to fight.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping to have that out by November. One of the artists, the main artist for Horde Wars Basic, which was Simeon Cochran, is currently on the project for dropship and should be starting working on the artwork in February.
Awesome. I'm interested in it.
Well,
I'm excited.
Good. Well, it's a narrow slice game, right? It's really focused on a particular style of play, kind of like old D&D was really focused on dungeons. And later expanded into more things.
Yeah.
But it's deliberately that way. And if it sells well enough, we can use it to help fund the larger game, and they're meant to be directly compatible. So unlike Horde Wars Basic and Advanced, where you will see some rules adjustment based on player feedback, actually, which was great. Because we had hundreds of customers, many of whom chose to contact us in various ways.
Yeah.
We got a lot of feedback about things people wanted included. A simple example is in Basic, there's a feature called Athlete that lets you climb or swim at a speed of 3 combat spaces. The base rule lets you climb at 2. Combat space is 2 yards or 2 meters, if that helps. Anyway,
we got another question.
The change in Advanced works the same, but it says you get to move an extra combat space, essentially, instead of a base of 3. And the reason for that change was player feedback. It'll work the same normally, but if, say, you drank a potion of swimming, if you're an athlete, you'll swim even faster. The feature will stack.
Right.
Got it.
In Advanced. The basic one didn't. Even though the normal rule is exactly the same, by changing the phrasing, we allowed an enhanced use as well.
Yeah, and in Advanced, you have a little conversion section that alerts you to these rules changes from Basic.
Yeah. But unlike that, dropship is meant to be a directly compatible and standalone companion to the core space game. So you can play it on its own, or you can play it and add all the civilian and Space Navy combat stuff.
Right.
Nice.
All right. So how do you become a playtester for such games?
Question.
I want to see if I could apply for something.
I mean, you're welcome to come and playtest. In part, we do in-person game playtests. We probably will do 1 or 2 at the North Texas RPG Con as well.
Nice.
And then we and other conventions that we go to. And then also, if you choose to purchase any version of Horde Wars through our website, you will get an invite from us for joining our Gilded server, and
which is very active and
yes,
has
it is.
lots and lots of games.
And if you choose to, you can jump into playtests we have listed, or into one shots or ongoing campaigns, and so on. How many
GMs do you have running there? Because I know you got a big queue of players, a lot of people, but is it just you?
No, I would say 5 or 6.
Okay, very cool.
And it varies for frequency. So, let me think. I would say that Johnny, Tom, and Brian run the most often.
Okay. Looks like Patty's heading out for the night. Good night, Patty. Thank you for stopping by.
Good night, Patty. Looking forward to playing with you on Sunday. Patty is signed up for a dropship playtest then, actually.
Awesome.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah.
Cool campaign idea. Space privateers, human raiding, alien shipping.
We do have boarding actions included in the potential encounters for that game. Yeah.
Nice.
But we are not giving you the rules for spaceships, like in fighting in spaceships. That is a separate. That's like an extra 50-page thing, and we're trying to control costs.
Yeah, I know. I know that's the thing. That's like so if you do a Kickstarter, here's what I would not recommend doing. Don't do content stretch goals. Our content stretch goals were cool, and we delivered all of them, but we did not anticipate how much it was going to increase the page count, which did end up increasing the final cost of the print of the book. So lesson learned.
Yeah, that's that's difficult. What you might do for stretch goals is include a PDF supplement with the relevant content.
Yeah, we've got ideas. We I think we only did one stretch goal on our last Kickstarter, but we've got ideas for things that we want to do going forward. But for the most part, it's like the idea is it should just be done, and
here's the product.
Here's the thing.
Yeah,
like.
Yeah, so if it helps for anyone still listening, Horde Wars Basic to Advanced, you do have some direct rules improvements, but in general, exact same game.
Yeah, very
we had
much.
a guy who's really obsessed with building characters. He's built like 50 of them, and he only had to mess with 3 of them to handle the changes.
Oh, this is one question I had about the character builds. Have you guys discovered any super broken build that combination where it was just like there's some build that you have?
Yeah, that's what playtesting is for.
Yeah. Well, but do they exist, or did you find something that was like really super egregious that you were just kind of like, oh man, we have to change that?
No, there are. I'll put it this way: some of our current customers, and some are correct, would like to imagine that they are the reason for a particular rule.
Yeah.
And you know who you are.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yes, so Dropship is meant to be a standalone game that will be focused on specifically humans being dropped off on alien worlds to fight aliens, and that's basically the game. You're in the military and you're fighting aliens, and you're getting all different missions and fighting all different kinds of aliens and using different technology and so on. But it is meant to be directly compatible with a future supplement, which a future game, which would be, so you'd want both books in that case to play. So unlike Horde Wars, where if you buy Advanced, you also have the full game, you don't need to buy Basic. This would be you'd want both because they're really focused on different elements. One is focused on tactical combat in the military, in the army or the Marines, and then the other is focused on naval combat and civilian stuff and ship rules.
And so it's a different scope.
Yeah,
a
different scale.
Which sounds very cool.
Yeah,
and I want to know more as we get closer.
Yeah, so we're trying to get that out by November. But just to give you an idea, again, hopefully this interests your. Oh wait, before that though, just jumping back, Horde Wars Basic to Advanced. The other thing is you're going from a 180-page book or PDF to 300.
300. Yeah, so it's a significant expansion to the content.
It is, and that page count doesn't quite do it justice because I mentioned a little earlier we got a little better with layout, and so there's actually more content than that. It's just we figured out ways to lay out pages better, so there's more content per page.
Right.
In particular, in the monster and beasts and NPC sections.
Yeah, it's like we said at the beginning. Horde Wars Basic is the highest bang for your buck product out there, like for sure,
by a huge margin.
Yeah, in Horde Wars Advanced, I think is going to be the same. It's just you're getting a lot.
A lot more.
Yeah, it's even more.
Yep, and we wanted to save our current customers money, so we're not doing tons of PR initially. We're doing just a little bit of stuff, but we sent everybody an email who chose to share their email with us, letting them know that it's out, that there is a first month only sale for $15 for the advanced PDF, after which it'll be 20. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Well, man, I think we're at time now. This has been a lot of fun. Is there anything else that that we didn't cover that you really wanted to, like just some burning point from the book that we've missed?
I think the best kind of burning point from the book would be, let me see here. I had to, as I mentioned to you, I had my camera died, so I had to get another one set up rather abruptly. Is really just the artwork. We have, again, varying quality and experience in artists, but we had 3 long-term professional RPG artists doing the bulk of the work. And you'll see a couple ones that are very different styles, and that's totally fine. But I am really happy with the art overall. and we have over 100 pieces in here for you to check out.
And
some
I
of them
would
were
say-
in basic, but not most of them.
Yeah, there's significantly more art in this one, and I would say for the most part the style is very consistent. There's maybe
I did
one
my
piece
best art directing.
yeah, there it's a consistent style. So there's definitely a
nothing
a
seems
distinct feel.
jarring.
Yeah, there's nothing that's like, whoa, what was that? You know.
Well,
Which
I'll give you
happens
an
in some
example.
games.
On a good way, in a good way. Jared Blando did 2 pieces for us. He did the Thunderbird and the Phoenix. And unlike the other artists, he jammed his signature in there.
Yeah.
And so you will see that is a stylistic difference.
Yeah.
And that's okay. He likes to sell prints of his artwork, so
Right.
I get
Yeah.
why he wanted the
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's very good. Everybody should check it out for sure. It's a hell of a lot of fun to play.
right.
It's tight rules.
And if you and here's the thing, you can go and find people to play with on the Gilded.
That's true.
When you've purchased the product.
That was a cool thing. So in the last week, I have learned about active Horde Wars groups that I did not know existed.
Oh, perfect.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So there are active gaming groups that I had no idea were even there, scattered around mostly the U.S. and England.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And so, are you also? Do you have a YouTube channel active? I know you stream
no,
sometimes.
I
with
used
Patty.
to. I used to do YouTube some years ago, but when they changed their terms of service at one point, it was pretty clear that the content we were putting up would be in constant violation. So we simply, my friends and I at that time, simply deactivated the channel and removed it. We were mostly doing miniature reviews, audio only, actual gameplay. Which was a lot of fun.
Right, it is.
And then some game master advice stuff. But our best views were actually on the miniature reviews, because we weren't reviewing mostly like, here's this product. We were going, pick a monster. I don't know, a hag or a witch or something.
Yeah.
Here are 4 different models that we're comparing and contrasting from different manufacturers or different manufacturing lines. Which is the best for different purposes? What are the pros and cons of these different manufacturers making this particular type of creature?
Right.
Same for ogres and so on. Those videos actually did pretty well.
Nice.
But no, so we don't do that. I do occasionally stream on Gilded. I'm happy to guest on other people's channels. But on the whole, as you guys I'm sure are finding out, YouTube can eat up a fair amount of time, especially if you need to do editing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, it takes a lot.
And I, as it turns out, hate video editing. I can do it. I don't like it.
No, I totally understand. We spent many days this week editing.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, we got to get going. But,
absolutely. If you guys have a moment when the stream is done, I would like to talk with you very briefly, because something you said sparked an idea that I wanted to mention to you privately. But thank you for having me on. It's been great talking with you. And I hope everyone out there checks out Horde Wars.
Yeah, you definitely
should.
All right.
And yeah, if you're curious, if you're like, oh, I don't know, $7 for basic. It's not a
I know, that's the thing.
What do you got to lose?
Yeah, $7 for basic. Like I said, that's not a starter set. It is a full game. And you're going to get a massive expansion if you go with the advanced route.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, boys.
Take it easy, fellas.
Take it easy.